Julian Lennon's name has long been associated with renown, fortune, and an exceptional musical gift that few possess. However, are you aware of the shadows that lurk behind his seemingly idyllic existence? Although Julian had a very unhappy childhood, his stage performances portray a cheerful, energetic, and brilliant image of the dazzling star. The fact that his father was away and that Julian had a strained connection with him contributed significantly to the unpleasant experience. There's no denying the enormous impact that Julian's dad, John Lennon, has had on music and popular culture. One of the most legendary songwriting partnerships ever was created by him and Paul McCartney. Notable among the illustrious members of the legendary rock band The Beatles was he as well. His son had nothing but negative things to say about him as a father, but he was a fantastic singer with a dedicated fan base and equal respect from his bandmates. Indeed, the phenomenally talented musician whom we have all adored to the core was less than stellar as a parent. Even his own son has admitted this to the public, so it may sound harsh. Julian has been extremely candid in interviews, discussing the less pleasant parts of his childhood, even though he and his partner have not been overly forthcoming about their relationship. During an interview at the age of 48, Julian said that he had no plans to tie the knot or start a family. He gave the reason as his father, John Lennon, was a young man who was ill-prepared for parenthood. Avoiding a repeat performance was Julian's top priority. Before he took on those duties, he wanted to discover himself. This fact alone provides a wealth of information regarding the nature of his relationship with his father. Given these audacious claims, it's reasonable to ask what John did to drive a wedge between them and make Julian doubt his ability to be a good father out of fear of inheriting his father's traits. Looking at their family dynamics will help us understand them better. In 1963, Julian was born to John and Cynthia. John was just 23 years old, and Cynthia was 24 years old when Julian was born. But by the late 1960s, John had moved on from Cynthia and was seeing Yoko Ono. He eventually wed her, settled down, and started a family of his own with her, leaving Julian and Cynthia entirely on their own. Julian has always been open about how devastated he was when his father left when he was a little, naive boy. His biological father's seeming abandonment of him as a toddler left him with intense feelings, and he has spoken frankly about how it felt like his father had vanished from the earth after he departed. Continuing his commentary on John and his highly publicized affair with Yoko Ono, Julian said that it made him feel that his mom and him had been ignored. While acknowledging that not everyone ignored him and his mom throughout their tough times, he went on to tell a tale about how Paul McCartney composed the song Hey Jules after visiting to see how he and his mom were doing. As time went on, Hey Jude became the official title of the song. Following this, Julian said he rarely spoke to his dad. After Julian's father attempted to repair his relationship with Cynthia, the two rejoined after a 10-year separation. After splitting up with Julian, John allegedly informed him that his second kid, Sean, was born of love, while Julian was born after a night on the town. This information was reported by the Irish Times. Despite John's reputation as a champion for love and peace, this displays a less than kind side of him and how he perceived the 13-year separation between his two kids. Along with his father, Julian has voiced his displeasure with the public preaching of love and peace, saying that he has never personally felt the love and peace that his father spoke about. He accused his father, John, of being a hypocrite in an interview he gave to The Telegraph in 1998. He went on to say that John may have preached public peace on earth without loving the people closest to him, including Julian's mom, Cynthia. So, it's not shocking that Julian thought his dad was a terrible parent based on what we can gather from a few internet interviews in which he discussed his father. Meanwhile, it's intriguing to note that Julian had no ill will against his dad's second family. Even if Sean Lennon, son of Yoko Ono, may not be as keen on maintaining ties, Julian has asserted that he gets along okay with him. Even if they have their differences, he still has a lot of respect for Yoko Ono. As a gifted photographer, singer, documentary filmmaker, and philanthropist, Julian undoubtedly inherited some of his father's creative traits. Yet, he lacked his father's compassion, generosity, and time. Even though he was Julian's father and the antagonist in his son's story, Julian's dad really went through a lot of hardships and fights in his own life. It was no different for his son John. Neither of their lives here were easy. Indeed, his private life was a whirlwind of mayhem and tragedy, some of which was dictated by his vengeful destiny and others by his own carelessness. As a result of his struggles with substance misuse, John encountered numerous challenges. A lot of people think this had an effect on his singing too, in addition to his significant part in the dissolution of the Beatles. In 1969, when John's heroin addiction was at its worst, there was a lack of knowledge on opioid addiction. John Lennon, as Lennon and Yoko Ono publicly drank it, Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr observed with growing anxiety. There was no mistaking the fact that the three of them saw this as way out of their league. It should come as no surprise that this caused friction within the group, and the band quickly disbanded, causing John, who had spent much of his good days trying to elevate it, a great deal of pain. When discussing John's misfortunes, it is nearly hard to avoid touching on the tragic manner in which he passed away. On December 8, 1980, Mark David Chapman brutally murdered John, a 40-year-old musician, by shooting him down outside his home. What's even more bizarre is that Lennon and Chapman hadn't met before. At about 4:30 p.m., a young, strangely shy fan approached John Lennon on the street the day he was murdered. John autographed the fan's Double Fantasy album and took a few pictures with him during their brief encounter. Unfortunately, the man assaulted John with 5 hollow-point bullets while he was still holding the autographed album, just over 6 hours later. John had hoped to repair his relationship with his son in an interview he gave just before he passed away, but he was tragically killed before this could take place. Later in life, Julian acknowledged that he hadn't really forgiven his father, although he nevertheless claimed to have done so at the time. He made it clear that his forgiveness was purely verbal and that he had complicated thoughts regarding his father. Also, Julian has mentioned how things were looking up in his relationship with John right before he passed away, which is tragic. He told him that John had made a full recovery and was eager to be back together with him and the family. Julian went on to say that he feels he has a better understanding of his dad now that he is working. Julian also reminisced about his father with several touching anecdotes after John passed away. His childhood home in Kenwood brought up warm memories of the late 1960s, when he may have unintentionally seen some of the world's best musicians pass by. Julian told journalist Joshua David Stein that the house was the site of many happy memories. Additionally, Julian mentioned that when he was a little boy, he thought his dad was content with his family, their house, and his position in the world. He found it shocking how abruptly everything changed. To what extent do you believe Julian's strained connection with his father contributed to his inability to overcome the grief he felt and the weight he bore throughout his life?